Hi, in this video we're going to talk about index laws and what exactly are indices. So an index is a number with a power. So for example, 3 to the power of 4 has a base, which is 3, that's what's being multiplied, and 4 is the index, or how many times it's being multiplied by itself. So 3 to the power of 4 means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And we're doing this 4 times. Now, we can do this in a calculator, but if you didn't want to do it on a calculator, what I would do is I would do 3 times 3, which is 9, and 3 times 3, which is 9. And if they're both worth 9, and I'm timesing them together, then I will get 9 times 9, which is 81. What's important to note is that the base is 3. I might do this over here. The base is 3, and the index, or indice, is 4. So that's one way of writing a reasonably large number in a short way. Now, this video is about the laws to do with indices. So we're going to start with the multiplication law, and what exactly does it mean? Well, 2 to the power of 5 means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. That's 5 times, right? And 2 to the power of 7 means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And what we're doing is we're timesing those together. Now, all in all, I have 12 2's that are being multiplied together. So today is not about trying to find the actual solution. We could put that into our calculator and get an answer. Today is about simplifying. And simplifying means take something that is reasonably long. Well, this is reasonably long. There's 2 2's, a 5, a 7, and a time symbol, and turn it into something shorter, like 2 to the power of 12. And what I did to get that was I took the 5 and the 7, and I added them together. That's the multiplication law. The multiplication law says that when you're multiplying two numbers, like let's look at B, two numbers with the same base, so in this case the base is 3, what we do is we keep the base the same, so the answer will have a 3 in the answer, and then what we do is we add the powers. We add the 6 and the 12 together, and that gives us 18. So 3 to the power of 6 times 3 to the power of 12, in a shorter way, in a simplified way, is 3 to the power of 18. Similarly, let's look at the third one. 4 to the power of 4 times 4 to the power of 5 times 4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add the powers. But before I do that, I've got to know something. And that is 4, written by itself, means 4 to the power of 1. So now when I try and add my powers, I'm not going to forget that I'm going to add 4 and 5 and 1 together to make 10. So the base stays the same. My answer will have a 4 in the base, and my power will be 4 plus 5 plus 1, which is 10. Now, three indices that are being multiplied together can be written much more simply, as one single indice just by adding the powers. That is the multiplication law. Now, the division law is similar, but in reverse. What I mean by that is we can write 2 to the power of 5 as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 divided by 2 squared, which is 2 times 2. Now, the top number, this is 2 to the power of 5. The bottom number is 2 to the power of 2, and we put it into a fraction because the fraction line means divided by. And the reason why I'm showing you this is because with fractions, if you have common numbers that are being multiplied in the top and in the bottom, in the numerator and in the denominator, you can do what's called cancelling, which means that you can get rid of them. We can remove them. I don't want to use the word subtract them because I'm going to use the word subtract in a moment, but we are getting rid of common 2's. And I can see that there's another common 2 in both the top and the bottom. So I'm going to be left with, after I do my cancelling, 2 times 2 times 2, which I can write as 2 to the power of 3. And what I need to note about this answer is that if I look at my powers in my question, the 5 and the 2, and I look at my power in the answer, what I'm doing is I'm subtracting my powers. The base stays the same. The base is 2, and the base is 2 in my answer. But I'm going to be subtracting my powers. 5 take away 2 gives me 3 for my index. It makes it easier when I look at b now, because b is 2 to the power of 15. Take away, well, it's divided by 2 to the power of 10, but I'm going to do 15 take away 10 to get my answer of 2 to the power of 5, because 15 take away 10 is 5. This is a much simpler answer than what I started with. So when I get into my final question here, I'm going to be leaving the base the same, which is 2, and I'm going to be subtracting. I'm going to go 8 take away 5, which is 3. Then I'm going to take away 2, which is 1. I get 2 to the power of 1, which I can write more simply as just 2. This is a lot more simpler to write than this is. And if you did this on your calculator, if you did this question on your calculator, you would get an answer of 2. But you don't need a calculator. You just need to know the law, the division law. All right, let's go to a power of a power. Now, 3 squared, this is what this is, 3 squared to the power of 4 means 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 squared times, you guessed it, 3 squared. And I'm going to do this 4 times because it's to the power of 4. Now, I know from my previous law that when I'm multiplying powers together just like this, I'm going to add the powers and I'm going to keep the base the same. So the base is 3 and the powers are 2 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2. That's 3 to the power of 8. And what I've got to notice is the powers in my question versus the powers in my answer. 2 times 4 is 8. So 3 to the power of 2 to the power of 4 is 3 to the power of 8. Let's see how that might help us with our second one. We have 5 to the power of 9 to the power of 5 to the power of 3. Now, I don't want to have to write out all my 9 to the power of 5s, but what I can do is multiply these two powers together so I can get 9 to the power of 15, which is a much simpler way of writing the question. All right, let's look at a little trickier one. So this is 5 squared to the power of 5. Now, 5 squared to the power of 2, I'm going to multiply my two powers together, is 5 to the power of 4. And that has to be multiplied, that has to be brought to the power of 5. So now I'm going to do 5 to the power of 4 to the power of 5. I'm going to times those two powers together, and that's going to give me 5 to the power of 20. This is definitely a lot easier to read than my initial question. And this is why we call it simplifying. This is called index notation. Now, I don't want to know what 5 to the power of 20 is. It's a very, very long answer, and it's not really going to be helpful to us. Simplifying is what we want. All right, so let's have a quick recap. We've done some multiplying powers, and when we multiply powers, we've got to add them together. We have divided some powers, and when we divide powers, we subtract. And we have done some power of a power, and when we do a power of a power, we multiply. Now we're going to take a look at a power of 0, but I'm going to do it for you by looking at a pattern. Now, 2 to the power of 4, I can do that on my calculator. 2 to the power of 4 is 16. And 2 to the power of 3 is 8. And 2 to the power of 2 is 4. And 2 to the power of 1 is 2. And the reason why I'm doing this pattern is because I want to see what happens when I get to the bottom. I want to see what happens when I get to 2 to the power of 0. Now, every time I go down a power, what's happening is I'm dividing by 2. So when I want to go from 2 squared to 2 to the power of 1, I divide by 2, and that gives me 2. So if I do this one more time, this will give me the answer for 2 to the power of 0. And 2 to the power of 0 is 1. Now that's a curious answer, 1 whole. The reason why I've done the powers of 3 is because I want to see if it does the exact same thing for powers of 3. Now 3 to the power of 4 is 81. 3 to the power of 3 is 27, and 3 squared is 9, and 3 to the power of 1 is 3. And every time I go down, I'm dividing by 3. Every time I go down a power, I'm dividing by 3. So when I do it for the final time to work out what the answer is for 3 to the power of 0, I'm going to get an answer of 1. 3 to the power of 0 is 1. 2 to the power of 0 is 1. And in fact, this will always be the case. Anything, any number to the power of 0 equals 1. And that's our last law. And what we're going to do is we're going to put those into practice by looking at 4 mixed examples. So let's try out the first one. We've got 3 to the power of 4 times 3 to the power of 3 divided by 3 to the power of 2. I'm going to start off by adding the powers, and then I'm going to subtract the powers. So the base stays the same. I'm going to do 4 plus 3, which is 7, and then 7 take away 2 is 5. Now we're going to take a look at B. 5 to the power of 6 over 5 to the power of 2. This is a division question. So I'm going to use my law of division, and I'm going to keep the base the same, which is 5, and I'm going to subtract my powers. 6 take away 2 is 4. Now I'm going to look at C. 6 to the power of 0 plus 6 to the power of 0. Well, anything to the power of 0 is 1. So this is 1 plus 1, which is 2. And finally, this last one's really tricky. So I'm going to do the powers for the numerator first. 4 to the power of 5 times 4 to the power of 3 is 4 to the power of 8. I was about to multiply them together just then. 4 to the power of 8. And 4 squared to the power of 3 is 4 to the power of 6. I'm multiplying my powers together. To finish this off, I'm now going to subtract my powers. So I keep the base the same, which is 4, and 8 take away 6 is 2. So these were our index laws. Indices are numbers with powers. So the numbers at the bottom are our base, that's what's being multiplied, and the number at the top is our index or our power, and that's how many times it's being multiplied together. So 3 to the power of 5 is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, 5 times. We have some laws. The laws that we looked at was the multiplication law. And the multiplication law says that when we're timesing powers, numbers with powers, we add the powers together. Our division law says that when we divide numbers with powers, we subtract the powers. When we have a power, we're multiplying the powers together. And a power of 0, anything to the power of 0 equals 1. If you need to, go back and watch this video again. Make sure that you take note of all the different laws and how to apply them, and then good luck in your working mathematics. See ya.